I think so.
Okay, the school board meeting for Glendale-River Hills for February 19th, 2025 is called to order. Bear with me, this is my virgin trip here. All right, roll call for attendance, Chris Robinson. Here. Katie Avalos. Here. Karen Farnwell is here, Carla Pennington Cross and Danielle Bailey are excused today at 3 to 5, we do have a quorum. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. Please feel free to stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, subject D, I believe already. Oh, D, thank you, sorry. Motion to approve the agendas. I believe we have two that are, today's agenda for February 19th, 2025.
I move to approve the agenda for February 19th, 2025.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And now approval of board meeting minutes 2/5/25 and I believe 1/8/25, correct?
I move to approve the minutes for 2/5/25 and 1/8/25.
Oh, I think we've already approved 1/8/25. I think that is a typo. I think it would just be 2/5. My apologies.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like
Then
to-
I will amend that to just approve the board meeting minutes of February 5th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion?
Carla Pennington Cross was excused after we did the vote on the redistricting.
So are you proposing an amendment?
Oh, I'm proposing an amendment to reflect that.
And so the new motion then would be that we are approving the 2/5/25 minutes with Chris's proposed amendment that Carla Pennington Cross was excused after the hearing,
After the vote on the hearing.
after the vote on the hearing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Sorry, that's okay. And then, so that's the acceptance of the amendment and
Yes.
then yes, or do you guys agree to pass the?
Yes.
minutes?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Sorry for that. Oh, gosh, no, it's it's all good. All right, meeting grounding, I just, would like to say hi and thanks for compassion tonight as I wander through this new experience. And I'm thankful for people who are here and in person and also online for our opportunity to just be present and keeping our students and community in mind as we talk through these agenda items. And then I would open it up to public comment for anything that is not on the agenda.
None from Mr. Martin.
All right, seeing there is no public comment tonight, then we are moving into our strategic pillar, empowered community, recommended approval of policy revisions. Is there a motion to? No motion yet?
Jody, just to introduce.
Yeah, do you want to introduce
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay,
So our school board policy indicates that the adoption, modification, and repeal or suspension of a policy should be recorded in the minutes of the board, which is why we're looking at revision 34-1 from Neola. And after the board has the opportunity, and you've had the opportunity to review those policy revisions, we would want to make a motion to adopt those revisions. You've been provided with all of the policies, and had an opportunity to review them, and before we make a motion to adopt, are there any that we would like to discuss, is kind of where.
Yeah.
I'd like to go.
Does anybody want to start?
I didn't have any, like, I feel like my questions were answered prior, so I don't have any that I feel like I need to discuss right back into guys.
I asked my questions ahead of time.
Okay. Well, I asked my questions ahead of time too, but I do want to just touch base about two particular policies. The first one is policy 8395. It's the student mental and physical health services policy. The physical health would be a new component to this policy. And as I had stated a couple different times, my concern is that in my own professional experience, occasionally there are misunderstandings from the medical world where OTs and PTs get referrals in the schools to conduct medically based evaluations. That is not the traditional role of a school-based therapist.
Right.
And I feel like this revised policy would open us up to that potential pushback. I know this is not something that, this is an optional revision. I would be open to changing it to stipulating, I believe it's nursing services in our district that is what we provide, correct?
We do provide nursing services in our district and mental health services.
I mean, mental health is presumptively staying, like
Yeah.
that's nothing I'm
Yeah.
arguing about.
Okay.
I would either like to propose a revision that we stipulate nursing services,
Okay,
or that we do not approve this.
I guess I'm more inclined to leave it open. In case there would be some sort of. I know when I was working at Search, we ended up hiring a psychiatric nurse practitioner when our kids couldn't access medication needs. Maybe that would fall under nursing services. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just liking the options.
just to add to that point, this typically is why we would open up a policy as having like on-site medical services. It does indicate though that these would have to be done in conjunction with contracted services between the district and the healthcare provider, so it couldn't just be anyone coming in, we would have to make that contracted arrangement prior to that happening. So there are some pieces in the policy that I see that would kind of safeguard us from people being ordered to come in, right?
I feel like that contractual aspect also kind of safeguards us from like ad hoc, like, oh, you're an OT, come do this, because that would be part of your contract.
To be fair, these people are contracted services. I mean, some of them are contracted services already. So, I mean, I do think, I hear what you're saying, and
Yeah.
it sounds as though, it sounds as though you'd be willing to defend the policy and its application in a way that would not overwhelm staff if there were to be pushback from somebody with regards to that kind of service. But it is, in my experience, it doesn't happen terribly often, but has certainly happened predictably enough that I'm not surprised when it does.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, ultimately board's decision to decide, in terms of, wanting to edit that at all. And, take a look at whether or not you want to just include nursing services on that, or if you would like to maintain the openness with the understanding that in practice, it would be in consultation with building administration and through contracted services.
I'm comfortable, I'm comfortable leaving it more open-ended, and then if it does end up becoming an issue, I mean, I don't believe it will with this administration, but now we know that policy's in there. So if it does end up being a concern down the line, we can go back and revise the policy.
true, I mean, that works in both directions.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, and then the other one, and I know Anna and I spoke about this just a few minutes ago, was the facility security policy, and how we kind of keep that separate from student discipline. If it's a student that's involved, and I guess that one as well, I was wondering about either amending it to afford administrator discretion about when the police are called, or amend it to indicate that if students are involved, student discipline and handbook take precedence over this particular policy.
Not opposed to your addition about the student handbook taking precedence. I kind of like that, it's like. I certainly trust Anna's ability to make any kind of decision.
Right.
But I kind of like taking the responsibility off
Right.
of her, so I'm sorry, it's board policy, I have to call.
Correct.
Again, I'm gonna agree with Chris here. I like having that in there, although I do also like adding. I feel like that doesn't necessarily take that away, like board policy says I have to do this. But we could also have the caveat that, you know. Student disciplinary policies supersede this when a student is involved.
Yeah, I understood that to be what she was saying, is
Right, yeah,
the
yeah.
student language as opposed to administrator discretion, because it still protects our admin.
Yeah.
Correct.
It also, there may be a point of consideration, I'm just trying to quickly look at this right now, is that, this also references state statute, which may have shifted in terms of the rise in school violence to strengthen this language, and that may be why this policy has been specifically revised as well. Um, There is a component of Wisconsin State Statute 175.32, 2 and 3 that requires certain people to report threats of violence or harm to a school employee, to a public or law enforcement. So there's like a mandated reporting component of that state statute. I can get clarification if you don't want to move on it today, like you want to leave that one out, if we get clarification as to why that was added in there, or the board can make a decision to move forward as is.
I'm inclined to move forward as. And I'm inclined to move forward as is, if that's part of the state statute.
Would that somehow negate would our student policies somehow negate that? Because those are administrative discretion, correct? And so then,
So the way that the policy reads is law enforcement shall be contacted and district officials shall fully cooperate with law enforcement's efforts to apprehend those who knowingly cause physical harm to students, staff, visitors, and or property, and to request prosecution of those who bring harm to the persons or the property. So if we were to take a look at those pieces, and this is in compliance with our district school safety plan and visitor policies, right? So it's connected to those. Our student discipline policies and our student handbook look at student behavior in a way that doesn't see that as a mandated threat, right? Typically, the type of things that we would see with students would be conflict, potential, damage to property, which we would handle in-house through our student handbook. So I don't know that one policy supersedes the other. To me, this is around facility security. The other is around student discipline. Student discipline is also laid out within our student handbook. So there's kind of, in my mind, you have a policy in place to protect the mandated reporting component of facility security is the way that I see that. And sometimes there's redundancy in policies and overlap. And that can cause issues, right? Yeah.
So if I'm understanding this correct, this would be more likely used if a student came in and assaulted another student. But if two students were involved in a mutual fight, then you would use the student discipline the handbook, but you would be more inclined to have to use this if a student assaulted another student.
Yeah. And this is knowingly cause physical harm, right? So if two students who get into a conflict who may engage in physical contact with each other, I would argue necessarily are knowingly coming into the space to cause physically harm, right? In an instance, if another student were to attack another student, right, like that would be a case, and that likely may be a situation in which it would be appropriate to involve police interaction if somebody was harmed in that way. Does that make sense? Okay. So that, I mean, that's the way I look at this in terms of interpretation and practice, is that this is in relationship to our facilities. And primarily visitors or somebody from coming into our facilities.
There are other thoughts or other comments, but these are other policies.
I thought most of the changes were pretty straightforward.
Yeah. There was one, trying to, let me see, maybe one of like, which one it was. There was just like a wording, like we had parents in there instead of caregivers or something, just something really nominal like that.
And that could be if we wanted, and I guess that would be a question if we want to use caregiver, parent, guardian, and family, however you want to refer to that. I think, I know in one of the areas, I think to your point, there's some definitions that are given of parent, that parent is all encompassing of anyone who provides care.
Oh,
So they interchange that word with a broader definition at the front part of the policies that acknowledges that caregivers are not always biological parents, right?
okay, well, as long as that's
Yeah.
covered, then I guess we don't have to get super nitpicky with it. Yeah.
Just something I wanna say for the record, because I know a couple people, I think, had questions about this, the summer or interim school attendance. I know we had asked a question about, that was, oftentimes people see that as an enrichment activity, and why would we need to keep attendance? And I just wanna, if that's okay, publicly answer, that's because we are now counting summer school as part of our enrollment numbers. Am I saying that right? Our enrollment numbers, and thereby it is required that we keep attendance and have attendance policies such as the one proposed.
That is correct. So we need to make sure that we're maintaining attendance and the how would you say it, like the quantity of attendance is really kind of what counts for the reimbursement. And so it's really important to pull that information accurately in and to have students in attendance for the services we're providing during those times. Hopefully they're here having a great time.
Yeah, they are.
And to that point, slightly off topic, but I think we need to make sure we communicate that to families, so that's definitely a change.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure where I would do this, but I would like to suggest that if we're going to vote en masse, that the policy 8395 be separated out and voted on independently. That's the student mental and physical health services.
Oh.
Action, or can it just happen?
We need to record in the minutes that you're approving the revisions in 34-1 with the exception of that one. And then if you want to make a separate motion on the other one or table the other one, you can do that. So, yep.
I move to approve the revisions in policies 34-1 with the exception of 8395. We're gonna pull that one out. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion with regards to 8395?
Would you want to wait for other people or you want to do it tonight? All right, I move to approve policy 8395.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote against. It feels like really awkward, but anyway. All right, so now we move on to the number 4, strategic pillar, equitable stewardship. This is recommended approval, revenue, expenditures, and payroll. And I'm going to give Michelle the floor.
Okay, thank you. First off, we're gonna look at the fiscal year 25 revenues and expenses by fund. And I put a summary on the front page. You can also look at the report to see further breakdown. A question was asked. I apologize for not getting back with you sooner. I've been analyzing this. Where are we in regards to having the budget come in as projected? And I do anticipate at this time that it will. There will be some changes between functions and sources possibly that'll be coming to the board in the next couple of months. But overall, it would be coming in as projected and adopted by the board. General fund, currently revenues of $12,784,513, expenditures of $8.4 million. Special education, we're at revenues. Revenues and expenditures will equal once we make a transfer, so $2,090,485. Non-referendum debt, revenues of $424,358, and expenditures to date of $9,826, and there will be upcoming payments on debt service, so that will change in February at the end and in March. Food service, currently revenues of $150,818, expenditures $194,002. $2.27, and on food service, we are making claims promptly. Those are federal funds to make sure that we're getting those as they're available. Community service, currently revenues of $141,641 and expenditures of $149,247. And then on accounts payable checks, there is a report there if you'd like to view that. Checks issued for payments through accounts payable totaled in January $993,149.53. And at our last meeting, a question had been asked on the accounts payable check listing. There had been like some $0, and those were in liability accounts through the payroll function. Those were created so that could occur if someone has multiple like payroll accounts on their file and multiple account numbers, and one of them just is not used for some reason, and it's just like a 0. The fiscal year 25 summary of pay, benefits, and disbursements. This document goes through January. For the entire fiscal year. It includes payroll, benefits, and accounts payable. The total of $1,227,373.62 were for payroll benefits and retiree benefits for January. It also included 403B and health reimbursement deposits for our retirees who have those benefits. January payments not related to payroll or benefits totaled $1,922,517.95 and included repayment of the line of credit that we had taken out of $1,603.
And Michelle, when you and I met last week, you had kind of clarified to me that a couple times a year, there's going to be kind of a bulge in some of our payouts because of retiree negotiated benefits, correct? And so
Yes.
that happens in January, it happens again in June or July, correct?
Yeah,
So,
July.
so there's some, that's where we see some of like an unusual.
Yeah, that is correct. That is. Thank you. And then, the final report is the, bank balances, the month-end cash, for the end of January, as of January 31st, 2025. In the general checking, there was a balance of 807,379. The payroll checking had a balance of $7,312. Petty cash had a balance of $258. Our WISC investment had a balance of $2,284,403. And then a money market account in our US bank had a balance of $2,500,229. So any questions or comments?
Online?
Mr. Martin didn't anticipate any questions or comments tonight, but I'm looking and
All
making
right.
sure.
Okay, if no questions or comments, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the revenues, expenditures and payroll for January 2025.
Second.
I just asked for clarification. Are we doing December 2020? I think we have
Oh,
is it January 2025?
yes.
Okay. Can we take that action with the typo?
This is a recommended action, so you can make whatever motion.
Okay. All in favor of Katie's motion?
Aye.
All right, passes. Multitasking is really perfect. Okay, and moving on to the budget planning update.
Planning for the 25-26 budget is ongoing. In February, budget work that we are doing includes reviewing and revising our revenue projections for the 25-26 year. Salary planning, benefits, 25-26 insurance loss. Building department budgets, we're beginning to work on those with administration. And then I have included on this document the 25-26 budget planning calendar so that you can see steps that we're taking.
Questions or comments?
I really appreciate the attached.
Yes, in fact, at one of the workshops I went to at the education conference, it talked about the calendar and as a best practice, and I looked at it and I'm like, well, we're doing it, so thank you.
I do wonder if we could integrate or annotate our agendas with like budget planning points. Is that something? So like if we're, for instance, looking at. So I guess I'm saying cross-referencing perhaps, like so consistent with this part of the calendar. Just. Is it, Anna's got a very confused look on her face.
I'm not following. Like, are you thinking that we like noting something in our public content, like we'll be discussing the February work that's being done towards the budget calendar?
Or even just listing from what's on the budget calendar, like this is consistent with February budget calendar items, blah.
Okay,
So that we have clarity that we're following the calendar.
okay.
Does that feel like a big?
No, it just is, like on the agenda item 4B, are you talking about the printed, the attachment? February budget work includes, just adding that this is consistent with the calendar that's attached.
Yeah, just so that we like, I'm just wondering as a board. Tracking all the moving parts, right? And also it could be that the pushback could be, no, the board needs to be looking at this and just making sure that we're doing it, right? But maybe having that cross-reference on the agendas of this is consistent with the February work of our audit presentation. You know what I mean? Just so that we can say like, okay, we definitely did that.
I don't know if I'm thinking, maybe you're better.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking too is the write-up addressed the first item for February,
Yeah.
you know, as far as budget work. We did not address the audit presentation. We had hoped that would be ready.
I know.
It's, the financials are ready, almost, we're gonna review those with the auditors and then those will be brought. So we could have updated, I could have put that on that list for the budget update. I see what would that be what you're looking at, or did you want an agenda item for each item on the?
I think more so I was just thinking in terms of like a way for the board to be definitely cross-referencing with this calendar, that's all. It's just a way for us to be like, yes, in February, what we're gonna do is the model workshop and the audit presentation. And then, yes, we did that, so when we double check our budget work, we're on trend or on schedule for the calendar.
Let me, correct me if I'm wrong here, but, you could add it in kind of how you like reference specific policies. You can just be like, this references, just a quick note in there, so that we can just like, see
Okay.
that, this is definitely this, check that out, you know?
Yes.
Got it. Got it. So in the actual document, not in the line item agenda in Word doc.
Correct.
Okay, that's where my point of confusion was. Okay,
I am so
I got
sorry.
it. I got it.
All right, any further comments or questions? Then there's no action, that was just information, correct? So then the next item is 4C. This is the recommended approval of a land lease with Milwaukee County Parks. Anna, do you want to orient us a little bit?
Yeah, so the Glendale-River Hills School District leases a small portion of land near Parkway Elementary School. There is an aerial map attached to that. And it provides us ongoing access to the land. The lease agreement is also attached in this item. And the term of the lease would be $1 a year over the next 5 years is really the term of lease. So you're approving a $5 lease for the next 5 years. With Milwaukee County to make sure that we have access to that area of Parkway, which is used for our students and instructional opportunities.
Well, to be clear, it also reserves it, correct? So it wouldn't be then possibly rented to somebody else. It's just the district has capacity to use that space whenever they want it.
That is correct.
I move to approve the land lease with Milwaukee County Parks.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Thanks much. She was shaking. Okay, and subject D, the Green Schoolyard Project Grant. Do we have Jen online at all?
I know she said she had another meeting and she was gonna try to get here right around, a little bit later in the meeting, so I would anticipate her coming soon. I don't know if you want to propose moving to closed session and then rearranging the agenda.
Anybody want to make a motion to table this item until maybe after the closed session?
Or we have a superintendent update coming up too, don't we?
No, I can do that.
Sure.
Okay. I move to move the superintendent update up in the agenda. So that we can have the expertise we need for item D.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Superintendent updates. I just want to give some staff acknowledgement, and let people know about some of the amazing opportunities that are provided each day to our students. So in this report, I really want to give a special shout out to our physical education teachers at Parkway Elementary, Amy Lingard and Zach Trusky, for giving 1st through 3rd grade students the opportunity to shine for their families in a PE gymnastics show. During the show, students were able to demonstrate their understanding of not only their physical education learning, but also had the opportunity to demonstrate to their parents their social and emotional growth as they learned how to persevere in times that are hard as we're climbing up the ropes. There's some pictures that are up on the screen of our students, working hard to make sure that they make that opportunity happen for them. It's a great event that they hold pretty much annually and gets a lot of parent turnout as well. So it's a big moment of celebration at the school. So shout out to Amy and Zach for skillfully running that program. I'm really proud of their work. I would also like to take a moment to recognize the efforts of the music teachers at Glen Hills. Cheryl Miracle is our band teacher, Kelly Francis, our choir teacher, and Elizabeth Day, our orchestra teacher, put on winter concerts that were held on 1/22 for 7th and 8th grade, and on Thursday, 1/23 for 5th and 6th. Both nights, Glen Hills was packed from the front of the commons all the way back into the cafeteria space. So a huge thank you to our parents for coming out, and family members and community members for supporting our students and providing them with an audience for them to be able to really shine in those moments. Our outstanding music program starts at Parkway with Miss Chernick doing an excellent job of getting our students ready, and they come to Glen Hills. They have that smattering in 4th grade, and then they really move forward and excel. And many of our students continue at Nicolay with their love of music and develop as musicians. So very proud of the work our music department is doing. And so just very fortunate to have amazing educators, some of our educational choices that we have available, our supportive families and our engaged community. Thank you to all of our teachers.
Can I add something? Or did I could add something to that too? I also, in addition to, the great musical performances, I appreciated how they allowed the students to lead. As the students introduced the pieces, I mean, public speaking is like the #1 fear of people, and our students are getting a chance to do that right now in front of a large audience. And you could tell that the teachers worked with them so well because they were so poised and so prepared. And what a great experience. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, I'm gonna suggest that we go ahead and move into closed session following the agenda. And then if you could just convey to Jen Clark that, we're trying to prioritize her presence and be respectful and,
Okay,
yep, that'd be great.
I move to recess into closed session for section 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss administrator contracts.
Second.
Okay, this requires a roll call vote. Katie Avalos,
Aye.
Chris Robinson,
Aye.
Karen Farnwell votes aye. It's unanimous, and it is officially 6:40, and we are in closed session.
But can we say we will be coming back and addressing a business item?
Yes.
We're done.
Thank you. For the main school, with regards to the MMSD grant, the green infrastructure funding agreement for Glen Hills Middle School schoolyard.
Right. So just to visit, and this was agenda item 14 that was tabled that we're now addressing. So our policy indicates that we need to have grants having a value of $5,000, more than $5,000 required board approval. So on May 3rd of 2023, Glen Hills teacher Jen Clark brought forward the Glen Hills Green Schoolyard proposal and information regarding the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District grant. The grant has been postponed at this time and will be brought to the board for review, discussion, and action to either A, move forward with the grant, or B, rescind the grant offer. The full grant terms are attached to this item. It is a recommendation of the administration that the grant be rescinded due to the maintenance and easement terms in the grant, which require the following. So there's conservation of the easement. So after completion of construction, our school district would execute conservation of the easement in favor of the district. The extent of the conservation of the easement would be limited to the green infrastructure, and the duration of this conservation of the easement would be 20 years. The district will draft and record the conservation easement. With the other part of this is operation and maintenance. Again, we would operate and maintain the infrastructure for 20 years in that area. And the green infrastructure, if the green infrastructure fails to perform as anticipated, or if maintaining the green infrastructure is not feasible, then we would provide a report to the district explaining the failure of it and why maintenance is not feasible. Failure to maintain that green infrastructure would make us ineligible for future district funding until we correct the maintenance problem. So essentially, in looking at the terms of the grant, there's the district would have to maintain that easement for 20 years, and if we could not maintain that easement, we would have to essentially report why we could not, and failure to do so would then prohibit us from taking out any further grants through the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. So that would be sort of the consequence of not maintaining that easement.
Would you like to present anything, or do you want to just?
I do have a statement that I wanted to read on behalf of the work that's been done
Yeah.
and consideration on future opportunities. And just to clarify well, do you mind if I just read my statement?
No.
Okay, sorry, I'm also navigating a Zoom meeting for association.
Oh, jeez.
I apologize if I'm slightly distracted. All right, do I turn this on?
Yep.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and the time to speak on behalf of the Green Schoolyard Project. The project was born out of a student inspiration following COVID. So it's actually started back in 2020, once we came back in. And then the date that Anna mentioned was when we were officially awarded the grant, but there was some things in between as well. But I'm gonna read a statement because it's been an amazing journey for me, but also an emotional one as well. It's been something that we've been trying to work towards for quite a while. And so the Green Schoolyard project was an exciting project, 4 years in the making, born out of students' wish for and need to connect with natural spaces right here on our school grounds. This project was developed with the support of our own administration, school board, and foundation from the start, and eventually the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, thus providing the opportunity for Glen Health students to have their voices heard. Students in 8th grade science, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade STEAM classes, along with Green Team members, collaborated and worked with architects and engineers from MMSD, Greenprint Partners, Learning Landscapes, and the city of Glendale to not only design spaces students wanted to be in, but also to help our environment by creating a haven for a plethora of native species and by helping to manage stormwater runoff and slow flooding in our area. Students have also had the opportunity to share their ideas with community members at the spring fling, school board meetings, and other events. Also with staff and students from UWM School of Architecture, project managers from Findorf and PRA during the last site evaluation, and Learn Deep events with our local resident Wisconsin native plant expert and retired environmental sciences Professor Mark Feider, and along with many families and residents in our community. All of their time and efforts proved successful as we were awarded the Green Infrastructure Grant from MMSD for about $80,000 for the one phase of the project, along with a generous offer from our foundation to move forward with partnership in funding the Green Schoolyard project as a keystone project. Over the last years, the district has had to face some significant changes and challenges, and the project was put on hold. All the while, we have been hopeful that there would still be a way forward for our vision of green schoolyard spaces for students and community to come together, to learn, to explore, to find comfort and solitude with nature. What makes this project so unique and meaningful is that it was inspired by students, designed by students, for our students and our community. And not just for now, but for the future. With that said, the decision to rescind this grant is disheartening, and I believe a potential deficit to our district and community, as we are working together to build a better future for our students and our community. I do hope that as the decision is made to rescind this particular opportunity, that the students wish for and need to connect with natural spaces right here on our school grounds does not end here, or becomes a missed opportunity for the community and our students. And so with that said, we've had some conversations about still supporting efforts to move forward. And that's why I wanted to read the statement, because a lot of work was put into this, and the engineered plans are completed. I understand that there is some hesitation around the easement and that kind of a commitment considering where we currently are. And so as I have a lot of understanding, there is a lot of it that's disheartening, because it really has been an amazing journey, and has opened up a lot of opportunities for our community and especially our students. So I just wanted to make sure that that vein is still something that we can move forward with. And that's why I wanted to speak to you all today. So I appreciate the time.
I would just like to add that I watched the enthusiasm and excitement of your students as this whole project unfolded, and I'm very supportive of continuing the work in ways that make sense for where we sit currently, right? And we were in a different place in time when we embarked on this, but it is work that I know needs to continue for our students. I want you to know, as an administrator, I share a commitment to that. I believe in my conversations with the board, we share a commitment to that. But also just wanting to be practical and protect the needs of our institution right now. And so I know I've shared that with you privately. I also want to share it with you publicly, because I know you put your hard work into it, and our students have watched them rise to that challenge. And I know how much pride there is in that. Thank you.
Oh, there's more. Okay, so I would tell you, when we talk about visioning for our district, one of the things that stands out to me about our district is your project and the green school. I think it's a really unique signature piece to our district. And for my part, I think as we look at things, one of the things I would advocate for is how do we scale that up, right?
Exactly.
So please know that regardless of this particular isolated discussion, I very strongly believe that within our area, the values of Glendale as a whole are very green. We are working hard as a city and as a community to be greener. And I think that our district also should continue to be greener. So I want you to know that certainly, at least from my perspective, and I think I'm not alone in that, that's a high stakes value for me. I did want to ask, was there any, I looked at the May 3rd meeting, and I didn't see any point at which people were talking about the fact that we were entering into discussions around buildings and grounds and improvements that might interfere with being able to do something like this. Did it ever get brought up? That it's been a hot minute, but.
Yeah, and I guess my question, the May 3rd meeting.
2023, I think that's when you guys brought this forward.
Right, so pardon me one quick second, I am in need of.
Your other meeting?
Is it timed out? I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
I know you guys have been waiting for me too, and I have too many tabs open to
We just had a tab to
navigate this. There we go, and others are managing, so once I just open it, it's okay. I was just, we might need to retrain Gus on Zoom meetings if we ever need to do that again, because it's like, I only need videos, Clark. We're really great videos, by the way.
It was an exceptional virtual physical education. Lots of energy.
Yes, it was a good time. And it was always fun to watch everybody.
Somewhat related, I had to present in person recently, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't presented in person since COVID. So where I had to learn how to present
Yeah.
virtually, and it was really stressful, going back to presenting in person, I was like, I can't hold my notes and navigate the PowerPoint and stand in front of you.
Okay. I do apologize. And so I think going back to the 2023 meeting, if I recall correctly, it was postponed because there was some question around placement of the green schoolyard and if that would impact future design opportunities. And the MMSD had done all of the engineering plans based on that space.
Yeah.
And so there was follow-up questions to ask that, like, if we had to relocate the space, and what that would look like, and if we could, see if MMSD would help us with some of that, things like that, but, the MMSD came back and said basically that we would have to then fund
Yeah,
it to be re-engineered.
that was my fear.
Yeah, and then that would, there was a big investment on their part to do that and to contract with learning landscapes and green print partners and such, but I think that. And I know I said this to you, Anna, I'm like, well, can we have engineers design around? Because isn't that what they do, or like the architects for if they would move things around for our building, and again, that's not a decision she can make right now. But with that said, like the plans are still there. Chris Schultz is our contact person, and he originally there was a possibility of postponing, but MMSD changed some of their requirements around that, and basically he has notified us that we would have to rescind and then reapply.
Okay.
And start the process over, but that there would be all of the existing files and work done. That would be something we could reference, especially if that space was still available. And then I know that the foundation has been very interested in doing some of that work, and so I don't know what that would look like as far as just having their help. And if it would be mobile or not. So I guess my plea is, to continue those conversations in an agreement with what you said as well, that, our district has a long history of being a green school. A lot of this work has been done even before I was a teacher here. And I hope that would also continue in acknowledging that work, and it makes us a standout school. That was one of the things that made me excited to be a teacher here, so. That answered your question without my distraction.
No, thank you so much. Anyone?
No.
Just thank you for everything that you've done for the students and to facilitate their ownership.
I
They
know
asked
who
for
you
it.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, they asked for it, so that's kind of my job, is to facilitate what they want, what they're passionate about, so.
I just wanna say, like, this is another instance where I feel like. I really wish things had been better researched in the past, so we wouldn't be in this position. Because you are doing really great work, and I wish we could just like keep saying, I know this is awesome, let's keep just doing this, but it wasn't. It wasn't thought out longitudinally. I don't think 20 years is a huge commitment for any district in any position. But especially now the position that we find ourselves in. So, but like she said, like, we're really committed to making sure that. Something is still happening, something is still there, we're not saying you can't do this thing anymore,
Right.
just not this way probably.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I motion to rescind the SD grant for the green infrastructure funding agreement for the Glen Hills Middle School green schoolyard.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Regrettably.
Yes.
It does, however, keep our relationship with them intact, so, you know.
Right,
Like,
as opposed to just
being
not.
frozen when there were no, if we couldn't afford to fix it. Okay, Alright, so now we are at 7A, board meeting D3. I will just say thank you for watching me struggle. I appreciate the space and the grace.
I would say you did really good, and if you hadn't kept pointing out your struggles, I don't think anyone would have done.
Alrighty. In that case. Is there a motion to adjourn? I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Adjourned at 7:45.
And now you can say, beautiful.
I know, also, I will honestly